Hi, welcome back. Today I'm here to do the over 30 book tag. I don't do a lot of tags, but I was tagged in this by Emily over at Ink Not Blood, and this is an original tag that she came up with to celebrate turning 31. Congratulations, Emily. As she says in her video, those of us who are over 30, yes, like myself, I will be 32 in 2019, so I'm definitely over 30. While I think there is a pretty good size and growing community of us over 30s on BookTube, we can sometimes feel a little bit on the outside because BookTube has traditionally been a much younger community. I do think that that is changing, and I love that Emily has gone out of her way to find other booktubers who are kind of in her same age range. Not to say that we don't love younger booktubers, but sometimes it's also nice to have in your mix some creators who are in a similar place in life as you. So with all that said, Emily created this over 30 book tag, which I love. It is short and sweet and just offers a kind of fun way to talk about who you are as a reader, where you've come from, and where you are in your life now, and chat about books, which is what we're all here for anyway. This book tag only has 6 questions, so like I said, short and sweet, which I am a fan of when it comes to tags. Question number 1. Name one of your favorite books that features a protagonist who is 30 years old or older. And for this, I'm gonna go with the first in one of my all-time favorite adult sci-fi / fantasy series. That is the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. This is the first in the Broken Earth trilogy. I could go on about this series. I think it is brilliant, and I love it so much. But one of our main protagonists in this series is a mother with a teenage daughter, and she is definitely over 30. So this is my pick for it. I recommend it. If you haven't checked it out, please do yourself a favor. It does get pretty dark. There is some pretty heavy content in it, but I love all 3 books in the trilogy a lot. Question 2 is name a book that represents who you were when you were younger. And I was thinking about it, and actually for this, I'm going to go with a book that has been a little bit controversial, but I loved it, and maybe the reason I loved it is because I related so much to the main character, considering who I was as a teenager. So this book is Ship It by Britta London. The main character is Claire, and she is a total nerd. People have a variety of problems with this book, which I can see as valid, but I really loved it, and I very much related to Claire as a teenager. She's nerdy, she's very outspoken, she sometimes has a hard time making friends as a result of that because she just says what she thinks, even if other people maybe don't particularly like that. And you really see her character arc through the story as she grows and learns from her mistakes and finds her voice in a way that's like powerful but appropriate, and I loved it. While this is a bit of a controversial book and not everybody likes it, I really related to that. As a teenager, I was totally that way. I was the person who would tell my friends, you shouldn't smoke, you're gonna get lung cancer, like, or whatever. I was very outspoken, very opinionated, and I wasn't afraid to say what I thought about things, and sometimes that created some social issues for me, but I also had a great group of friends. But yeah, this was very much me. I didn't always know where the lines were, but I eventually learned and grew. It's been a long time now since I was a teenager. I'm about to turn 32, but reading this really took me back and reminded me of the awkwardness and nerdiness and like what it's like, especially as a girl, to speak out when people don't expect you to. Question 3 is name a book that represents where you're at in your life now. For this, I'm actually gonna go with a book that I read a few months back and really loved and identified with a lot, especially with one of the characters in this book. This is The Christmas Sisters by Sarah Morgan. It's a really great women's fiction book about family and love and sisterhood, and it follows 3 sisters and their family and different issues they're going through. But one of the sisters that I think I most related to was Beth, and she is in the middle of experiencing the reality of what it is like to parent young children and sometimes feel like you're losing yourself to that, and is realizing that she's ready to go back to work and she's ready to find herself again and do other things beyond just being a mother that she finds inspiring. And I found that so relatable. I totally get it. I love being a mom. I love my kids. I have 2 boys. They're 2 and 4. My oldest is almost 5. And I love them a lot. I love being a parent. But it is hard. It's exhausting and it's repetitive, and I think if you don't have another outlet, at least for me, I had to have another creative outlet and something that I was pouring myself into, and this is where honestly starting a booktube channel became so huge for me. I started it when my youngest son was like 6 months old because I was just dying inside being home all the time with my kids and not having anything else to do when I had worked in the past. And so it was kind of an amazing thing, and now I'm at the point where I'm launching a freelance business and really trying to move out into doing more other sorts of work again, and I just really related to Beth and the realities of what that's like and how difficult it is and how you can have really mixed feelings, loving your kids and loving being a mom, but also wanting more for yourself as well. So yeah, this one I really related to a lot for where I'm at in my life now. Question 4 is name a book that represents something that has never changed about you. This was a pretty easy one. For this, I'm going with The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I have always loved fantasy and epic fantasy ever since I was very, very young. For my 7th birthday, my parents got me the Chronicles of Narnia, and I read and reread those books forever, and those were really my introduction to fantasy. So from a very, very young age, I have always loved it. That has never changed. It's probably never going to change. At the moment, this is one of my all-time favorite epic fantasy novels, and so this seemed like a good pick to answer this question. Question 5 is name one of your favorite classics. You know, because we're old, so we're classics. Thanks, Emily. So for this, I'm gonna go with one of my favorite classics. I do like a lot of classics. I haven't read many of them recently, but I used to be really into them. This was probably the first classic that I read. Again, this was a book where I received a copy, not this copy, my old copy is falling apart, but I think when I was around 10, my parents got me a copy of this book. Not that I completely understood it at the time, but I've reread this over the years and I do love it. This is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I think that this is a fantastic classic novel. It's about sisterhood and growing up and friendship, and the thing that I loved about this was that you have such a variety of personality types and interests among the sisters. I always really liked that Jo could be a tomboy and do the things that she liked to do and didn't have to conform to gendered standards, but that she had other sisters who did because it was what they cared about and what they loved. And I always just really loved that diversity. I think it was probably a great thing for me to read early on, and I imagine was part of what shaped the way that I think about gender and what it means to be a woman and the different ways that that can play out. So I think that this is a really great classic, and I love this 150th anniversary edition that I recently picked up. It is really, really beautiful. And the final question is name a book that you like or would like to read that was published in the year that you were born. So it's funny, I went and looked this up, and it turns out one of the books on my TBR that I have not yet read but want to read was published the year I was born, which was 1987. Yes, I am an 80s baby. That is Beloved by Toni Morrison. Apparently she also won the Nobel Prize for Literature. This has been on my TBR for a while. I picked up a used copy. I think this was actually free, but it was something I'd heard such good things about. I don't even really know what it's about. I have heard that it is difficult to read, but it is something that I would like to read, and it was published the year that I was born. So there you go. Thank you so much to Emily for tagging me, and if you want to do this as well, feel free to complete it. I know I have some friends and people who follow me who are also over 30, and I just think this is kind of a cool tag and a nice way to celebrate being in a later part of life, because we still have a lot going on. Like, you don't have to be 21 forever. So yeah, anyway, I enjoyed this. Talk to me in the comments down below if you have any responses to this. And question of the day, what book do you feel like represents who you were as a teenager? I think that was a really interesting question to ask, and I would like to hear what your guys' answers are and why. Why that book? Again, comment below if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.